Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our News Watch unit. It's also our all-English unit, so prepare to not have a Chinese teacher today, and also prepare to be informed about some things that are happening in the news. Today, we've got something going on in rural Germany that might apply to Taiwan as well. We'll get to that in a few minutes. And we're also talking about some veterans trying to restore coral reefs in Florida.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about some interesting things, as Tom said, that will be of interest if you're into coral reefs. We've got coral reefs here in Taiwan. And also, this mobile grocery solution may be coming to even more countries as time goes on. We're seeing more and more stores close for different reasons. This particular country we're going to focus on is Germany, which is quite beautiful, I must say. We're going to get started, though, as we always do, and we're going to read through today's lesson, but no Chinese today, Tom, and we are not going to be speaking as fast as we typically do. We're going to go a little slower. Stay tuned. Mobile grocery solution for rural German villages. In the rural village of Lohna, Hesse, Germany, a vivid red and green bus pulls up, standing out from the usually quiet streets and traditional buildings. It's the grocery bus, the result of a brilliant partnership between Rewe, Germany's third largest food retailer, and the Deutsche Bahn transport company. This grocery bus was implemented as a unique solution after Lohna's only mini-mart closed its doors. Bringing convenience to the roughly 600 Lohna residents, this 18-meter supermarket on wheels is stocked with over 950 everyday items, ranging from fresh produce to daily necessities and newspapers. Beyond its retail role, the bus has emerged as a social gathering spot for regular customers, consisting mainly of senior citizens. Operating from Monday to Saturday, the mobile store sets out on an extensive 600-kilometer route to visit 23 different villages while keeping prices in line with standard Rewe supermarkets. Given the troubling rise in small supermarket closures across Germany, almost 2,000 in the last decade, this innovative project is drawing attention. It demonstrates the value of flexible and community-centered retail solutions in contemporary times.
U.S. veterans undertake mission to restore Florida's reefs. In Florida, a dedicated group of U.S. Army veterans is undertaking an extraordinary underwater mission to restore the endangered coral reefs off the state's southern coast. The goal is to plant lab-grown coral fragments onto natural coral reefs in an effort to protect the environment and improve the veterans' well-being. For these veterans, this measure serves as a healing journey addressing both emotional and physical traumas. Engaging in the task not only fosters mutual support among the fellow veterans, but also provides them with an outlet as the underwater environment offers calm and restoring coral renews their sense of purpose. Additionally, this mission breathes life back into the local marine ecosystem. Over the past 40 years, Florida's coral reefs have witnessed a dramatic decline in living coral, dropping from over 30% to a mere 1 to 5%. The lab-grown coral fragments planted by the veterans merge and grow at a rate 40 times faster than natural coral. The vision is for these restored corals to thrive independently in years to come. Okay, everybody, it's time for us to jump right in and explain the context, or the contents, rather, of today's lesson. Again, it's our all-English unit, and it's our News Watch unit. And we're talking about a mobile grocery solution for rural German villages. Now, first of all, let's talk about the word grocery. Stephanie and I talked about this before the program began. A lot of people in the U.S. and maybe Canada have the tradition of saying grocery with a sh sound in there. So you might expect to hear that if you're talking to Americans, but other people say grocery.
And not just a difference with that S sound. there are two pronunciations you'll find in dictionaries. One is grocery, and the other one is two syllables, grocery. So grocery store. Let's go to the grocery store. Both Tom and I grew up saying grocery, and most of our colleagues here who record say grocery. But you'll hear some people perhaps say grocery, so you should get used to hearing both. We'll probably go back and forth in this. I tried to do both as I was reading this, so you could hear both pronunciations. So what's a mobile grocery solution? Mobile just means it moves around. Sometimes when people see mobile, they think we're talking about a mobile phone, or as they say in England or the UK, the mobile. I need my mobile. We tend to say a smartphone or my phone or mobile phone. We don't say mobile phone so much anymore. Everything's smartphone. But mobile, if it's used in front of another word instead of phone, means it's moving around. It's possible to go from one place to another. A solution is an answer to a problem that someone's having. And we're talking about rural German villages, which are quite picturesque. They look like little postcards if you ever get a chance to go to a rural German village. Rural means out in the country, away from the city, away from a lot of people.
Right, and rural is two syllables, rural. Although a lot of people have difficulty pronouncing this, they might just say rural, and it sounds like one syllable, but it's technically supposed to be two syllables. And while we're at it, the word grocery does refer to food that you buy in a grocery store, which is kind of like a small supermarket.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got these rural Germans, and we've got a mobile grocery store coming to a village near you. And in the rural village of Lohna, Hesse, Germany, a vivid red and green bus pulls up, standing out from the usually quiet streets and traditional buildings. So again, this is a small rural village. It's in the countryside in Germany. The name of the place is Lohna. I believe it's in the state or province of Hesse, whatever they call that there. And we've got a bus there that's colored red and green, just like it's Christmas or something. And it stands out from the quiet streets, which means it's very noticeable. It sticks out. It stands out. You can't miss it. And it's the grocery bus, the result of a brilliant partnership between Rewe, Germany's third largest food retailer.
Riva, they say.
Oh, they do? Okay,
yeah,
Riva. Okay.
Riva.
And the Deutsche Bahn Transport Company. Okay, so it's a partnership, which means two or more companies are working together to do this. And they're sending this grocery bus to this small village in Germany.
I wanted to mention here, a grocery store could just be like a regular supermarket for some people. We do have things nowadays that are called hyper markets, which are, hyper just means extreme. You know, if you're describing someone being hyper, they're usually full of energy and they have a hard time calming down, like a hyper kid in class. But hypermarkets are those really big superstores like, and I'm just going to mention Costco. I'm not doing an ad for them, but Costco's a hypermarket. And actually, the word supermarket actually came from French originally, which is marché. So, yeah, so there's a difference between a hypermarket, one of these huge, like Sam's Club, that comes from the Walmart brand, or Costco, which actually is on its own. But those are hypermarkets. Those are bigger than grocery stores. Most of the stores that we go shopping here, for groceries in Taiwan, they're just regular grocery stores. They don't have to be tiny to be a grocery store.
Right, but they do have to sell pretty much only food. If it's a Zahuodian, I tend to call that a general store. It's not really a grocery store because they sell more than just food in those stores.
True.
But again, this is a grocery bus. And again, it's a partnership between Riva, did I say that right? And it's also a partnership between them and the Deutsche Bahn Transport Company, which is probably a company that runs buses for transportation in Germany. And this grocery bus was implemented, or it was begun as a unique solution after Lona's only mini-mart closed its doors. So again, this is a very small town, and therefore the people in this town had no place to go to buy groceries. So they thought of this idea. Maybe we can send a bus to this town and they can shop in the bus, and then the bus will move on to another town.
Wow, yeah, a mini-mart, sometimes you'll even see these if you go abroad. A mini-mart in the town I grew up in, which was pretty big, was just a few grocery items that were connected to a gas station. That would be a mini-mart. And even that had closed down in this little tiny village. And for some of the people there, especially the elderly, those that don't get around very easily, they no longer had a place to just go pick up some food to eat and to buy a few items. So it was getting to be quite a problem, and so you can see why they needed some sort of solution to the problem. So this grocery bus was implemented or put into effect as a unique, very unusual, unique solution after Lona's only mini-mart closed its doors. Mini, small, mart, where you can buy things, and mini-mart becomes a word. And we do use that quite often if you're looking at a kind of a tiny little mart, supermarket. It's not a supermarket, it's a tiny little store that sells a few items, so you don't have to, go to a big store. Maybe even like some of these convenience stores, they sell some food items. Not everything's food, but unfortunately, their only option had closed.
Exactly. Now, this might be part of a trend as the world gets older and young people leave the small towns and go to the cities like they are doing in Japan. And I suspect this is happening here in Taiwan as well. And if those people are left behind, they need a place to go buy food. And this is a possible solution. In Deutschland, or Germany, as they say, auf Deutsch. Oh, we're not supposed to speak any language other than English. Sorry about
English.
that. But in any case, we're moving on now to the next paragraph. It says, bringing convenience to the roughly 600 Lona residents, this 18-meter supermarket on wheels is stocked with over 950 everyday items. So, yes, indeed, it does bring convenience to this small town. And we do see the size of this bus. It's 18 meters long. So it's a supermarket on wheels, which means it's moving.
Cool, huh? If it's stocked with something, it just means it has some sort of product available for customers to buy. If you go to a store and you see a sign that says out of stock, it means they don't have that product. They've sold out of it. And maybe they'll give you something called a rain check, which means you can bring back that little coupon and they'll give you the same price as the item had been for sale previously, but they'd sold out of it. So this one is stocked. It's got a lot of items, over 950 everyday items. Everyday items would just be the things we use commonly in our everyday lives. They've got everything ranging. Here's the range from fresh produce. Fresh produce are things like the fruits and the vegetables, things that are actually grown and aren't cooked or put together in a can or anything like that. Fresh produce, which is really important to people, and daily necessities. They even carry newspapers that you can buy.
Maybe older people are still reading newspapers, and beyond its retail role, the bus has emerged as a social gathering spot for regular customers, consisting mainly of senior citizens. So retail just means selling things to customers or selling things to consumers. So again, it does have this retail role of selling things to these people, but it's also serving the role as a social gathering spot. So we've got regular customers. Some senior citizens in the local town are probably lonely, sitting alone, all alone, and this is their only chance to go out and, hey, interact with their neighbors. Hey, how you doing? And of course, they'll be speaking German, and they'll have a certain amount of socializing going on there when it's time to go check out the bus.
Isn't that great? So it says here that this social gathering spot is something that has come about for regular customers. And these regular customers consist mainly of senior citizens. So if something consists of, it's made up of that thing. So most of the people who are gathering there to socialize with other citizens, just catch up with the gossip that's happening in the village. What's happening with your family? And, just chatting away. They are usually mostly senior citizens. We also refer to them as the elderly. For some reason, we always use the elderly, the poor, the disadvantaged, the rich. When we categorize one group of people, we use that word the. So it mainly consists of senior citizens. For the most part, at least in America, I can speak for Americans, senior citizens prefer to be called senior citizens rather than the elderly. I think it makes them feel younger in some ways, but it's the same thing.
Or seniors, you could also call them that.
Yep.
And operating from Monday to Saturday, the mobile store sets out on an extensive 600-kilometer route to visit 23 different villages while keeping prices in line with standard Riva supermarkets.
Good.
So again, it doesn't just stop in this village. It stops in several other villages to serve the rural population of this part of Germany. And given the troubling rise in small supermarket closures across Germany, almost 2,000 in the last decade, this innovative project is drawing attention. Okay, so yes, indeed, this is a trend in Germany and in other countries, I'm sure. We've got lots of rural grocery stores closing down. They just don't have enough business. All the young people are moving to the cities, or they're not reproducing. They're not producing children like they used to. And it's a project that a lot of people are paying attention to, and they might try to implement this project in other countries.
That's right. So we've got a pretty good deal here, though. The thing I like most about this project is they keep the prices in line with standard Riva supermarkets, which means they're in the same sort of range as just a regular Riva supermarket would be in a big city. Usually, if you have a quantity of products that's quite small, the prices go up. That's how economics works. So if the demand is high, prices are usually lower, or quantity is high. For example, if you go to some of these stores that sell tons and tons of things, and I just mentioned one earlier, like Costco, the price is usually lower than if you go to just a tiny market or store in your neighborhood. So that's the good thing. They can keep the prices pretty much standard with Riva supermarkets in bigger cities. Just to focus quickly on one vocabulary word here, route is also pronounced route. So be aware of that. I know we like to say route in Taiwan, but we also say route. It's just a way to get from one place where you are to a different destination. So I could say, my route home was via San Francisco. So I flew from Taiwan to San Francisco and then to my home in Arizona. So that's a great piece of news that we've shared with you. In our next piece of news that we'll be focusing on after the break, we're going to talk about something that's not so good, but we've got a group of people who are trying to make it better. So I guess it's news that's actually kind of good today. Solutions for problems. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's continue with our lesson. Remember, the first news story we talked about is a bus in rural Germany that's delivering groceries to rural residents because their mini-marts are closing down. Our second story is about U.S. veterans who are people who served in the armed forces. They served in the military, like the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marines. And the veterans in this particular case are undertaking a mission to restore Florida's reefs. So remember, the U.S. was involved in a couple of wars in the last 10 or 20 years in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the veterans have come back, and maybe they're suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, and maybe they don't have a sense of purpose in their life, so they're undertaking a mission to do something. They're actually getting themselves busy, and they're trying to restore Florida's reefs, or coral reefs, in the state of Florida.
So one of our vocabulary words here is in the headline. That's what we call those titles in news, in newspapers. They're always the headline. You notice that it's never a complete sentence, and that's okay in English. So to undertake something just means you take something on as a task or as a job, and you're trying to see something through. So they're undertaking a mission to restore, to bring back Florida's reefs. Florida has beautiful, beautiful beaches and coral reefs there, and we don't want to lose those. That's part of the pull that attracts tourists to Florida because of the beautiful beaches and the reefs there, and they like to do a lot of underwater diving, scuba diving, and even, what do you call that with the... What's the
snorkeling?
Snorkeling, I couldn't remember. Snorkeling, where you don't put your whole body under the water. You're trying to still breathe with that tube. So they're undertaking or trying to restore Florida's coral reefs.
Okay, so in Florida, a dedicated group of U.S. Army veterans is undertaking an extraordinary underwater mission to restore the endangered coral reefs off the state's southern coast. So again, we've got some U.S. Army veterans. They're no longer in the Army. They are 退伍, as you say in Chinese. I'm not supposed to speak Chinese. So they're out of the Army. They got out of the Army. They're retired from the Army. And they're undertaking this mission. They are accepting the responsibility of this mission or this project, and they want to restore the endangered coral reefs. If something's endangered, that means it is getting smaller in quantity or fewer in number, and it's about to totally disappear. We've got endangered coral. We've got endangered animals, and they might go extinct.
Yeah, so they're at the risk of going extinct, or they're at the risk of extinction, no longer existing on the planet, which would be sad because these coral reefs are so beautiful. They're also home to a lot of marine animals. Marine life that's really full is usually found in these coral reefs. Now, this state is off the southern coast. So what's the goal, the purpose? What's their mission? Well, they want to plant lab-grown coral fragments onto the natural coral reef. So we've got man-made or human-made lab-grown coral fragments. If it's grown in a lab, it just means some scientists have been busy in a laboratory and come up with some coral fragments that they've grown in an unnatural way. These aren't naturally made. So they're lab-grown. A fragment is a piece that's been broken off something else that's larger. I broke a glass the other day in my apartment, and I had to be careful because there were fragments or tiny pieces of glass on my floor, and I didn't want to step on those. Well, these are pieces of lab-grown coral that they're actually planting or merging with the natural coral reefs, and they're trying to protect the environment this way. And it's also, at the same time, improving the veterans' well-being. As Tom mentioned, a lot of them come home with a lot of trauma or post-traumatic distress syndrome, which is tough for these soldiers.
Right, and your well-being, of course, is being comfortable or being healthy, being happy, just being a good person, basically, a healthy person. And for these veterans, this measure serves as a healing journey addressing both emotional and physical traumas. So, of course, these are Army veterans. They probably served in Iraq or Afghanistan, and they have nightmares, and they have a post-traumatic stress disorder and those problems. So they can get together with their fellow veterans and work together for a certain project. So it addresses or takes care of their emotional traumas and their physical traumas. They may have lost a limb, for example. And they may feel pain because of that. So working on something may give them a sense of purpose. A trauma, of course, is something bad that happens to you. It could be some kind of a depressing situation where you saw people getting killed, or you killed people yourself because you were in a war.
Yeah.
Or you had some trauma as a result of an accident, like a car accident or getting hit by a bus when you're riding your motorcycle.
Yeah, anything that's distressing or very disturbing to you, cause you pain. And it can be, as Tom said, physical or emotional, mental. All of these things can bring people trauma that they have to overcome later to have a sense of well-being. So engaging or taking part in the task not only fosters mutual support among the fellow veterans, but also provides them with an outlet, as the underwater environment offers calm and it helps restore coral. Restoring coral helps renew their sense of purpose in life, really. So here we've got the task fostering mutual support. To foster something means to encourage something, to help something grow and to flourish. A lot of people out there bring in foster kids, so they help these kids whose parents are either gone or in prison or having problems themselves and they can't take care of their kids. They bring these kids into foster families and they help them there. If you want to talk about mutual support, it's people in a group being supportive of each other and not just, looking to have support towards yourself just alone. You give back to the people that have been good to you. Fellow veterans, we talk about fellow classmates, fellow co-workers. These are people who are in the same group you're in. And so it helps foster or build support among these veterans, but it also provides them with an outlet. What's an outlet? This isn't chato? Oh, no Chinese, where we plug in some sort of electric appliance into the wall. Nope. An outlet here just means a way that you can kind of get release from some of the stress of the day. Some people's outlet tends to be sports. They go home, they watch basketball or football or baseball games. Other people like to get on their bike and ride. I love to sew. So anything that provides you a release for stress can be seen as an outlet, some sort of hobby.
A release, and this offers calm, and restoring coral renews their sense of purpose. And just like people who like planting plants and things like that or taking care of gardens, it does give them a feeling of being part of nature, being part of the world, and making a contribution. Now, here in the next paragraph, it goes on to say, additionally, or also, this mission breathes life back into the local marine ecosystem. To breathe life into something just means to revive it, to make it active again. And if you're talking about something with the marine ecosystem, you're talking about things that have to do with the ocean and the cycle of life of underwater plants, of fish and coral, how they all work together in a cycle.
And sadly, over the past 40 years, we've seen a lot of decline in the living coral, probably because of the chemicals that are being released over there, maybe some of the plastic that's getting into the water. There are a lot of things that humans are doing to really destroy the coral, and it's dropped from over 30% to a mere 1 to 5%. So there's been a big decline. That's why we're using this word dramatic. Dramatic means big. You can see it. It's showy. Dramatic decline or decrease in the living coral. Now, the lab-grown coral fragments planted by the veterans merge, come together, and grow at a rate 40 times faster than natural coral. Now, I'm going to say this, Tom.
Yeah.
This is us humans messing around with nature. So I'm not sure how this is going to pan out or, work out in the future, but we're going to have to see. It sounds good for now, but we've seen sometimes when we try to mess around and fix, quote unquote, fix a problem, we make things worse. So I'm hoping this actually is a positive overall in the long term.
What you just said reminds me of an English idiom.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay, you may have the equivalent in Chinese, but they may be mucking around with something here that they don't understand. But hopefully, it will have its benefits and it will improve the coral, and it will also give these Army veterans a sense of purpose, and they'll probably have lower depression rates and lower rates of suicide as a result.
Yeah, we hope it helps the soldiers.
Indeed, and the lab-grown coral fragments planted by the veterans merge and grow again at a rate 40 times faster than natural coral, and the vision is for these restored corals to thrive independently in years to come. Notice here, coral has an S with it. We're talking about different kinds of coral. Usually coral is non-count.
Right.
How much coral still exists in the world, but if you're talking again about different kinds, then add an S to this. These restored corals hopefully will thrive independently without the help of people. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. And that's the end of our program, so thank you for joining us, and please join us again next time for another edition of our program. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.